Hello.
Hi everybody. Wonderful to see you.
Nice to see all these smiling faces.
Indeed.
You see, everybody is happy with the virtual reality. There is a model of Ray Bradbury, 451 Fahrenheit. There is something about virtual reality. Very scary, by the way. You see, Victor is even with the suit, so he takes it very seriously.
Yes, Katja, we take the uniform. So I think we're going to start. So I think maybe in the beginning, when there's the presentations, I think you should turn on the camera off, so you can see the presenter. So and also please the microphone. And good morning. Sorry, I forgot to say this. Don't you? Is this the one that updated? Is this the one that updated? Is this the one that updated? Okay. Okay. So, hello colleagues. It is a little bit past 10 a.m. here in Bonn, and so we're going to start our 17th Lead Reviews meeting. And please take well, not your seat, but please unmute the phone, and if possible during the presentations, don't show the video or the image. And so we're starting, and therefore I would like to invite Mr. Donald Cooper, you know very well, the Director of the Transparency Division of the UNFCCC, to open the meeting. Please, Don, when you're ready.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, lunchtime, dinner time, breakfast time, brunch time, good, whatever, to all of you. And welcome back to this family gathering, because if anyone has ever been on a centralized review or an in-country review, you know that it really is a family gathering. You develop lifelong friendships, you become much more aware at an intimate level of how the issues look from different perspectives, and you develop camaraderie, professionalism towards your colleagues. It is quite an amazing experience that I highly recommend to everyone. I have gotten to know people over breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, in the meeting, walking in parks. You just naturally get to know them, their families, what they like. So I really do call this group a family get-together. Also, you don't get together to negotiate anything. You are providing guidance on how one of the most fundamental and critical components of the entire climate regime functions. You got it to where it is. And remember, the parties all thought it wasn't good, it was great. And they have based what the world is likely to be doing in the next 20, 25 years on that model that you have honed and perfected over the last 20, 25 years. So, welcome to what is now the 70th meeting of our family. And this particular one has the unique component of showing the highest level of innovation and creativity. Yeah, people might say it's a meeting being done virtually for the first time, or one where most people are actually sitting at home in their home offices, or that it is a meeting where we are facing many, many challenges globally. But for me, the biggest component that singles this out is that we're having this meeting, that we found a way, demonstrated again that innovation, creativity, and the way to achieve. Once you have that, then the others fall into place. And I have to congratulate you, all of you, including the Secretariat team, for having accomplished this, and accomplished it consistently over the last 6 months. The amount of effort that has been put in by the experts in order to conduct the reviews of all types within the Secretariat and ensure that the systems have functioned and functioned exceptionally well, and done so in a very positive working manner. It is easy to look at what might have gone wrong and why we cannot do something. It's quite another to say, wow, that's quite a challenge. Let's hold hands and see how we can get over it. And that is what has been happening over and over and over again. It has been led by the team working on transparency. It is this kind of continued leadership, guidance, that we are counting on you to provide, to feed into the system. Because we are not only challenging and overcoming the difficulties, we're also preparing for what the future is going to look like. We are hoping that most of you will morph into something else, into whatever the parties determine will be the components of the enhanced transparency framework. So we not only need your guidance in how we address the current round of the review process, but also how we transform into the new one. Your roles are becoming more and more critical to how the process functions. In order for the high level of productivity that the climate change process has enjoyed to continue, it needs to maintain this level of trust. When somebody sits across the table from you and say, I will do this, your confidence level has always got to be exceptionally high, that you know that is what they're going to do. And their negotiations isn't to deceive what they're going to do. It is more to ensure that the commitment they give, they will live up to it. And quite a feature of how parties perform in the transparency regime is they want to exceed it. And most do. It has been one of the highlights of the entire process when we come to the end. Okay, greenhouse gas inventories doesn't have this component, but it initiated it. The multilateral assessment and the facilitated sharing of views. It gives countries an opportunity to highlight the contributions that they're making, which are always quite exceptional. The Secretariat team are here to provide all the assistance that they can. They can't go out and get you any coffee or cake or drinks of any kind, but I'm sure they can look up online where you can go for wherever you are. So please make full use of the team who you have come to know so well to allow the process to shine in the face of the challenges that we have, to keep climate central in the global agenda, and to give the confidence that parties need to build their new normal in direct line with the goals of the convention. This is quite a strong challenge for you to deliver on, but everybody is quite comfortable with that challenge sitting on your shoulders. You haven't failed to deliver yet, and the expectation is that line of success will continue. So welcome everybody, and please take full advantage of this opportunity, and you can directly chat your colleagues. It's an easy way to interact. You can ask questions over the chat in any area without having to stand up and take the floor. You can respond immediately to comments that come your way. You can engage in this chat whilst the presentations are going on the main floor. And what we have found is that the discussions by chat far outweigh the discussions on the main floor. So take full advantage of everything that's available to you, and our team are here to provide any assistance in support of the guidance that you're going to give. So welcome, and please have a very fruitful and very, very positive meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Victor.
Thank you, Don. The next one, sorry. It was also my pleasure to invite Katia Simonova, that we also know very well, and the manager of the transparency divisions, and in particular for subdivisions on MRV and ETF. So Katia, if you could say a few introductory words, please.
Thank you very much, Victor. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the virtual reality of the 17th Lead Reviewers meeting of annual GHG Inventory submissions. I really wish I could welcome you here in Bonn at the headquarters of the Secretariat, at our very, very nice offices with the beautiful view to the Rhine River, and to see you, all of you, which I always call you the champions of the review process, with your smiling faces that are always a source of inspiration for you, for me, and also for my team. But unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemics, remote and virtual became in a way the buzzwords in the work of the Secretariat that apply equally to the meetings of the constituted bodies, such as Compliance Committee, the Lead Reviewers, so this is our meeting in which we are engaged now, And many of the meetings that have taken place during the so-called June momentum on climate change that took place during the original dates of the ASB session, and I hope that at least some of you had a chance to participate in some of the activities, and in particular the lead reviewers meeting of the biennial reports and the national communications by Annex 1 countries. They took place during the June momentum. Remote and virtual also applies to the multiple reviews that we have as a secretariat that we have organized since the beginning of the year, including reviews of biennial reports, also technical analysis of BORs and RED Plus submissions. Altogether, convening this kind of virtual meetings really reflects the commitment by parties, by experts, and of course by the Secretariat to advance the mandated work despite the additional difficulties and constraints that stem from the remote and virtual working. Indeed, these kind of modalities of work provide opportunities, but they also introduce severe constraints that we need to find ways to address in the most effective and efficient way. We have extremely busy agenda, so I don't want to keep you with the long introductory remarks, and yet I want to address 2 points that might be of interest of many of you. The first is about COP26 postponing. As you know, in May, the COP Bureau took decision to postpone COP26 to 2021. And the clear reason was to keep us all safe from the COVID-19. But postponing COP26 does not mean in any way postponing of climate change action. When we look at the ASB agenda through the prism of the interest of the community of the lead reviewers, such the work on transparency is probably the most relevant for us, together of course with Article 6, and these are the areas which have been significantly affected by postponing of COP26 because work cannot complete this year. Nevertheless, the positive side is that we have very good results from discussions in Madrid, and they could be a stepping stone to advance the work towards completing the technical aspects of the Katowice MPGs. Also, I wish to inform you that we, as a Secretariat, we are in ongoing dialogue with the COP presidency and the SEFSTA chair, and we are exploring options and ways to advance the technical discussions on transparency matters. Then the second point which I wanted to make is about COP19 recovery and the impact on the NDC updates which are due this year, because this is also probably the second area where we as a Secretariat receive many questions. Indeed, many parties consider reflecting now green recovery from COVID-19 impacts while updating their NDCs. And it is clear that this kind of consideration will take time and may add some delay to the updates and the submission of the NDCs. However, we are still rather hopeful that parties will manage to submit these updates by the end of this year. For those of you who were listening to the opening session of the June momentum, you might know that recovery plans could and should place climate change in the heart of the recovery from COVID, together with creating new jobs and the just transition to on the pathway for climate neutral world. Coming back to our meeting, one of its main objectives since the very beginning, 17 years ago, was to help the lead reviewers to implement their role in ensuring consistency and efficiency of the reviews under the existing MRV system. And this is a kind of objective that will remain central for the meeting that we are engaged now. In the same time, I wanted to remind you that submissions of the first BTR, including national inventory reports under the transparency MPGs of the Paris Agreement, are due by the end of 2024 at the latest. This means that you as lead reviewers could start discussing operational aspects of the reviews under the Paris Agreement in 2022 at the latest. And this is why it is very important that you start engaging in this kind of discussions that can help you and help us also as a Secretariat to gradually gain ownership of the transition to the new ETF under the Paris Agreement. In concluding, I would like to wish all of you engaging, exciting, and thought-provoking discussions during this meeting. Me and my team will be with you and will be happy to address any questions or any issues that you may raise during the meeting and also in the lead-up and during the actual reviews that are scheduled to take place, as always, in the fall this year. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very, very productive work. Thank you. Victor, back to you.
Thank you very much, Katja. We're now moving. I'll do a short presentations and actually then I will also to welcome from our side, from my side and from the team, to welcome to the 17 lead reviews meeting. And I'm going to share the presentation that's available on the web, and that you were given the opportunity to look at. Just a moment, I have to open. So while I'm opening, I would like to take this opportunity to. Sorry, just a moment. So I would like to take the opportunity also to thank the team, and for the people that were involved. And as you can see, the meeting involved a significant amount of work, and the GHG inventory team put a lot of effort, and this includes Claudia, Tina, Javier, Roman, and myself, which I'm the team lead. And in addition, many other UNFC staff and members of the Secretariat, and Javier's pointing Kirsten, staff and members of other organizations have contributed to these meetings. They have provided materials, presentations. And from UNFCCC, we have Lisa, with Shuhong and Karen, Tov and Kyoko, Vlad, Pedro and Tomo, Lauren and Nashib, and Hafida and Tambi from the LA. And also Klaus and Pepe Lopez supported us with the preparations of background papers. And we also, of course, we have to thank and to be honored with the presentations of Sandro Federici from the IPCC in Japan, Roberta Quadralo and Francesco Mation from IEA, and Gao Xiang, which is coming as a member of the facilitative branch of the compliance committee. So to all our sincere gratitude. So moving in the moving to the next slide, I think this is information that Katya touched already. So the meeting originally was scheduled for the beginning of March, and unfortunately, just the week before, just a few days before, we have situations of participants declining, and then also the possibility of travel restrictions. So the meeting had to be postponed, and then later on there was many events, as Katya and Don mentioned. There was several reviews of BR, several technical analysis of BRs, the June momentum, several events, and then we found this time. This, I think, is the right time for the lead reviews meeting to take place. The end of July is just before the organizations of the reviews. So I still think the results of the meeting will be useful for our review year. Unfortunately, the scope of the meeting, I mean, it was very ambitious meetings that we have originally, and we have 6 breakout groups. We have a innovative refresher seminar organized by the training unit, and some of the breakout groups, I think it was unfortunate they could not be organized. In particular, the nursing something on the for the future in terms of this is the last one, sharing experience on GHG inventory reviews and transitions to ETF. But I think for now we still have many presentations, and we have presentations by Lisa and Shu Hong on that topic, and I think we minimized the impact. I can skip this one. And then I'll go to this one, which is an ambitious graphic, and then tries to explain or try to simplify it. Maybe it complicates, I don't know, the organizations of the meeting. So last week you were given the opportunity we have all the presentations available with including with the video recordings. So I think it facilitated that you can prepare, and then you were given the opportunity to provide your questions and comments, and this timing was until mid-weekend, and actually we received I think we received a significant number of comments. 13 people have made comments and questions for this particular plenary session, and then I think in total we have 52 questions. So for the time that we have, I think it's very good. And then just in the middle of the arrow, today, that's where we are, that's the opening, and then we'll give the opportunity, this session, these sessions today, there will have 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, to accommodate the fact that participants live in different time zones, and so they should be given the opportunity to listen to the presentation. And so these sessions, they are dedicated to allow the presenters to respond to the questions on their presentations, and also you can provide a few additional questions, follow-up questions, or a few additional questions. So so again, if you want to attend the session in the afternoon, that's fine. But basically, we'll have the same presentation shown again. So tomorrow, you're going to work as 2 breakout groups, one on consistency and one on the enhancing procedures or operationalization of the review. This will be smaller meetings. I think they will try to replicate as much as possible in this remote environment what you could do in the I don't know, 111, that we have meetings that we have in Bonn, and there where you could have two co-facilitators, and then you try to come up in a very interactive environment, come up with some contributions to the overall group. So this will be on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday it's a kind of holiday for you, maybe not for us, but on Wednesday we're going to with the support of our usual co-facilitators, who are, as you know very well, Thelma Krug and Mihail Gitarski. They will support us again. We're going to compile all the information that we receive from today and from the breakout groups, and we're going to prepare under the guidance also of the co-facilitators will prepare draft conclusions, and this will be made available to you on Wednesday, and then we'll give you how you're going to find how you can comment or provide your views, chat or other means, and then at the end we have 2 days for the consideration of the meeting. Actually, we should complete on the 2nd of July, and then have the 3rd of July only for celebration. This is a remote meeting. We have in certain aspects we have limit interactions, and we cannot stay here until 2 a.m. Maybe for some of you 2 a.m. is now, but we cannot stay. So we need to be effective, and I think we need to be pragmatic. And so this is basically what the plan is. I just forgot to mention that today you're going to receive the list of the names going to each breakout group, and so and that's, I think it's important that you. This is just the agenda, and then this is information on the box, but I will come back to this later on. So I may go back to this slide, and then I think this is basically covers all the information, a summary of the information that. I think I covered everything, and so now I will move to a different topic. We have to have a kind of housekeeping rules, and for those that are the first time that participate in the MS team meetings, I'm almost sure that that's not the first time for any of you, and but now but maybe you have different views, because maybe you're using phone or web applications, I don't know. So we have all these buttons. So I said that in the beginning, I will repeat it again to allow the presenter to have a view of himself and on screen. Please do not turn your camera except when you're speaking, when you're addressing the plenary, and keep your microphone muted when you're speaking. And actually, if you don't, we will, but because just in terms of not to disturb the ones that are speaking. There's also two important things: is the way that we communicate with us, is the hand raising. So if you want to call for the floor, and then the chat. Maybe in the first presentations you can take a few minutes to explore how they work. I think you know it very well, but just in case, chat verified. the chat it's a very useful tool, and then it helps in particular when you want to communicate text or complex ideas, and also you can use it for the technical issues. For instance, if your hand is not working, or if you have a problem, just chat with us. And actually, in the previous meetings, the chat has proved very popular in the previous meeting, in particular in the NCBR Lead Reviewers meeting, and it was impressive how there was discussions in the back, and how in the end, in particular, then there was this all these comments of the appreciation. So that was very helpful. And then, but in this case, on the meeting today, while there is presentations, so just remember the topics are temporary, and so once a presentation is out, just give the space for the new presentations and focus more on that presentations. Otherwise, could be confusing for the other people reading. And then at the end of the meeting, or when there is more space, I think that you can also use it to express your views and discuss, and then also to maybe to recommend recommendations that we could take on board, and also lessons learned. That's very important. However, if it's something on if it's a question that you want to raise to the presenter, please ask for the floor, because that's important. That not everybody may be aware that you're doing the question, so I think it's maybe important. You can complement it, but with the chat, but please make sure that your question is heard, and also that I'm here, I'm with the support of the team, but that I am aware that there is a question. And finally, if everything fails, and I look completely oblivious for your calls and chat or hands, I mean, you shouldn't do it, but in case everything fails, and if you're seeing that the presenter is going away and you cannot ask your question, you can raise your voice and shout. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the meeting, and I think I provided all the information, and so we're going now for the sequence of presenters that we have in the agenda, and the first one is Katia Semyonova, and Katia is going to. She had a presentation in our page, a very detailed presentation, and I think it's very useful in particular for those that do not follow so closely the negotiations, and that contains information on the negotiations. How we're going to do this? Katia will not present, but will summarize the presentation in 1 minute. I know that's very ambitious, but 1 minute, and then we have received questions from. We have received questions by the responses to the SurveyMonkey, and then Katia will respond first to these questions, and then we'll give the floor for additional questions that you may have. I don't know, Katia, if you want to show also your presentation or a specific slide. If that is the case, I don't know if you want to share, or if you want me to it's open? Okay, so if you could share, we will share your presentations. So Katia, please, you have the floor to introduce your presentation and maybe to respond to the questions. When responding to the questions, we're going to inform who sent the questions. Maybe we should say we have to repeat the question and then the response. Please, Katia, if you're available.
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor. Can you show the next slide because it has kind of key. Yeah, very good. It's a very difficult job to summarize in a couple of minutes such informative presentation. And I will provide just a few introductory remarks and hope that those of you that did not have a chance to look at it can have a look. But I make in the presentation a couple of main points. The first is that although there was kind of disappointment of the outcome of COP25, actually COP25 delivered on, and this disappointment of course stems first and foremost from the lack of agreement on Article 6 text. But actually COP25 delivered on a number of standing items in the agenda, in particular in the areas of adaptation, in means of implementation, gender, that are pretty noteworthy. Specifically for transparency, we have also, at least this is our internal assessment, pretty good outcome, which and this assessment is based on the actual summaries, information contained in the summaries from facilitators in different groups that managed to capture progress in the understanding by parties in all 5 areas of work on transparency under Substa 51. And of course, the level of progress may not be exactly the same across all these areas, but the areas are also pretty different, diverse. Some are more challenging, and definitely various reporting formats of the tables on inventory, on tracking progress, and to some extent on FTC are more complex and difficult, while others such as various outlines and training program are not of the same degree of complexity, but nevertheless I think that we have a pretty solid basis on which to step as we move forward. It was also very disappointing that parties did not agree on intersessional work, which now from the point of view of situation stemming from COVID pandemic is even more disappointing, but this is the reality, and we need, as I have mentioned in my introductory remarks, we are looking together with the presidency and Substa chair what are the modalities that we can explore in advancing on technical aspects. I provided a brief outlook on COP26, focusing on ambition and the submission of NDCs, which will be in the center, in the heart of the discussion, but definitely now with the postponing of COP26 to 2021, there is a kind of growing degree of optimism that parties will be also able not only to advance on a number of ongoing implementation issues, but also they will manage to complete the 3 outstanding issues from the Katowice rulebook, notably Article 6, the whole package of transparency, and common timeframes for NDCs. On ETF, I think there is no, the discussion and results of Katowice already provide a solid foundation for moving forward, and I highlighted in the presentation what needs to be done and how in moving from the existing bifurcated system to one-track system of enhanced transparency framework. And many of the issues that I touch upon in the presentation at the very high level will be highlighted more in depth in Lisa presentation. Now maybe a few words, shall I move to the questions now, Victor?
Yes, please, Kat. Yeah.
Okay. There were a couple of questions and comments. One was from Ken Buchnan on providing acronyms. We will provide such list. Then the question is if BR expert capacity needs to be built, is there any particular gap between the capacity of BR experts vis-a-vis GHG review experts? And I don't think it's there is such gap, but what the presentation refers to is the fact that with the view of the requirements of the enhanced transparency framework, we are trying to engage even more new experts than we actually need at the moment, and the idea is to build capacity for both inventory experts and also BR experts that look at the broader picture of on issues that are kind of consistent with what will be reviewed in the context of tracking progress. Then there is a question from Fatma Demirok. These are rather comments on her reflection on COP25, why it was disappointing, the lack of ambition of the Chile-Madrid time for action, and also lack of outcome of discussions on Article 6, CTF, and transparency, and this is a comment with which we all concur. Then there is a comment from Sekai that ensuring the use of CRF table, that it's important to ensure that the use of CRF table is simplified to accommodate the transition from existing MRV system to the ETF, and this is a comment with which we fully agree, but it's a really challenging task to find the best balance between transparency and completeness of reported information on the one hand and attempt to simplify to make these tables easy to be used. Then we have a question from Samir on how UNFCCC can incentivize action of necessary scale from governments and other stakeholders. And there are a couple of ways in which this has been done and is being done during COP25, maybe not to the needed degree of success. And the first and most important is providing financial, technology, and capacity building support for developing countries. But the other way to incentivize action is through best practice examples and actions that are scalable and replicable, and many of you have been engaged in a multilateral assessment or facilitator sharing reviews, and these are exactly the formats that provide an opportunity for learning from what others are doing and translating and tailoring to the circumstances of various countries. And last but not least is the big issue of stakeholders' engagement. We don't have a separate book to account for their actions, so in a way results of the stakeholder engagement is reflected in the national inventories, but showcasing the successes of various stakeholders and so many important initiatives also creates an incentive for the governments to take on board more ambitious commitments in the future. And I think that this is, and there is a question from Melissa Weitz on what is the impact of the delay of COP26. Obviously, the most straightforward answer is that we will not be able to have this year completion of work on the three outstanding issues, and particularly consequential are the issues of Article 6 and transparency. And in reality, this means that we'll have less time to put in place all the operational arrangements for Article 6 and transparency if we assume that COP26 next year would deliver on these issues. But there are options and ways in which countries can manage to overcome or to address these consequences. And one option could be just an idea. One option could be for parties to agree not to wait for the end of for COP26, but already to agree in the first or second ASB session next year on the draft tables, and then we can start working on them without any further delay. So these are the questions that we received so far. And there is a question by Rita that parties will submit BTR by the end of 2024. Some parties may already start reporting in 2023 and reporting thereafter every 2 years. Do you see advantage or challenge if party reports at different points of time? As any action in the world, I mean, you can see that there are some challenges with regard to the existing practice, but also some opportunities, because if parties don't report at the same point of time, this would allow for more spreading the work and using resources in a more optimal way. And that's it for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kasia. I think I see to echo. Maybe I have. Thank you very much, and welcome, Philip. Maybe you join later. If you just ask if participants do not show the video, so we can focus on the presenter. So if you please remove, and then if you want to speak, of course, you can raise your hand and we show you. We'll be very happy. I think if there's no more questions, I would thank you again, Katia. And we're moving to the next. Sorry. I see Javier tells me that Rita Pipati has a follow-up question. Rita, please. We cannot hear you.
I don't actually have a follow-up question. I'm very grateful for Katia for answering my question, and I see it like she does, both challenges and advantages, so very grateful for that.
Thank you very much, Rita. My colleagues told me there's no more requests. So thank you again, Katia. And now we're moving to the next presentation. The next two presentations, they touch the topics of enhanced transparency framework, or are somehow related. The first one from Lisa, and the second one will be presented by Shu Hong. These presentations, actually, I think I mentioned before that originally there was the idea to have a breakout group dedicated to start discussing these issues. Of course, with the understanding, it's not very clear if this is the part of the mandate for this lead reviews meeting, but it could be maybe helpful to have some discussions, and then unfortunately we were not able to fulfill. I think will be difficult for us to organize it, and then it's also something that maybe is better to organize in the next lead reviewers in person. version, hopefully. And but then I think we discussed, I don't know, you see the presentation, and then if you have anything to add, or if you think that's something to let's say to remember, or to or to add in the conclusions from the good presentation from Lisa and Shuhong, then just indicate us. In this case, now or later, you could also tell us by chat, please. So Lisa, I think you're going to control the presentation. I think it's easier. So you know the procedures. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Good. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And like Katya and Don said, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to see you all. It's always a fun meeting here in Bonn. The purpose of this presentation was to, and I hope you've had a chance to look at it, was to start thinking about the Enhanced Transparency Framework. And, you know, as both Don and Katya said, the lead reviewers here really are, they have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the vision in what has worked and what has not worked. And I think we are really looking forward to your insight for the future and planning the ETF. And the world is looking to your guidance. And so the purpose of this presentation was really to start the conversation and to hopefully foster and ideas for further conversations in the future. The presentation looked over what is the ETF, how does it fit into the broader framework of the Paris Agreement. It looked at some of the questions of the transition and how we will go from BRs, BURs, annual inventories to sorry, Javier was coming in, but presentation. I can't. Okay. How we can go, sorry about that. And how we move into the future. As you are the inventory lead reviewers, we highlighted some of the key changes and the key elements of reporting under the Paris Agreement. And for developed countries, it's largely the same, with the difference that it will be the AR5 global warming potentials. But for developing countries, there are a number of new requirements, and depending on what the parties are using now, and they're reporting under the BUR system. And so this slide in particular, and I was going to hold on this slide because it really highlighted some of the questions that came in from many of you about building towards the future. We had questions from Elsa on this comment below on sectors and gases on indirect CO2 is encouraged. And her question was whether this should have referred to indirect N2O. And that is a good point. Indirect CO2 is encouraged, but perhaps the bigger issue also is the indirect N2O from sources other than agriculture and LULUCF. Currently for developed countries, this is a may, and under the Paris Agreement, it is a should. This indirect N2O should be reported and included as a memo item. And this would be something big for developing countries. There was a question from Sandro on this party to indicate if natural disturbances is in the totals. This, and his comment was, it does not mean that a party should indicate if natural disturbances are in the totals, and this is referring to paragraph 55 of 18 CMA 1. He said it means that the party has to report if the natural disturbances have been estimated as a single component within the national total. On this question, I didn't want to provide a specific answer because I think it could be prejudging the discussion on the common reporting tables, like how the natural disturbances are reflected in the totals could be still discussed under the common reporting tables. This may be a topic that lead reviewers want to take offline. I think Vijay was mentioning during the lunch break or something to see what various views are. It's clear that right now natural disturbances under the convention are included in the totals, but there is guidance in the KP supplement as well as the 2019 refinement for excluding emissions and removals from natural disturbances. So this will be something for further discussion. There were also questions from general questions on from Julius on that the steps to work on the development of the common reporting tables, common tabular formats, and the outlines is essential, and that it's important for helping particularly LDCs and SIDS for identifying the capacity building needs. And I would just highlight, I think this comment is right, that 18 CMA1 is very specific about what has to be reported. And so I think to the extent that countries are working on their BURs now or their inventories, they know what needs are and what has to be reported under the ETF. There will certainly be additional elements that will be necessary for capacity building needs based on the final CRT tables, helping countries report, whether it's under the IPCC software or the common reporting tables, or how to report within the outlines. But I think that the major identifying of capacity building needs can be done now based on 18 CMA1. There were some good questions about the importance of building on the ETF now from Sakai and Batul, and I think that's why you all are here. You are the experts, and I think the amount of knowledge that you can pass on to the next generation of reviewers, and hopefully many of you will continue to be involved under the Paris Agreement. I think now we have a real opportunity to convey a good message, and I've been thinking of some ways that maybe we can convey ideas moving forward. If you think about how the review process was 15 years ago, and some of you were involved then, I think it was very different than it is now. And that's a good message to convey to developing countries, for example, who will be doing this for the first time, being subject to the review. And maybe think about what kind of messages that you would want to convey to them. There were a number of questions on flexibility from both Samir and John Watterson to provide examples of where flexibility is allowed in the 18 CMA1. And for that, I thought I would like to share with you the actual ETF handbook, because the reference manual here was also part of the presentation. We started talking about some of the resources that are being developed by the Secretariat to help support the transition to the Enhanced Transparency Framework, and two of the resources highlighted were, one was the frequently asked questions, which is now available on the website, and then the ETF reference manual. This is a draft document that we have made available to the lead reviewers of both the inventory process as well as the BR process. And we are looking for your feedback on this manual, and would very much welcome it by the 15th of August. And hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. But I think this manual provides a good illustration to answer the questions from Samir and John about some of the specific examples of flexibility provisions in the ETF. And so here, for example, in the case of key category analysis, there's developing countries who need it in light of their capacity. They can use a threshold of 85% for key categories as opposed to 95%. The goal being that they have fewer key categories to consider, and for the use of the higher tier methods. Some other big ones on the quantification, the significance threshold, which is a very well-known topic to lead reviewers, is twice the amount under the under the ETF for those developing countries that need it in light of their capacity. For the gases, while we have the basket of gases, those developing countries that need it can choose to report only on CO2, methane, and nitrous, and then any other gases that are in their NDC or that are covered by an activity under Article 6 or were previously reported. A lot of the flexibilities are identified as a way to recognize that developing country reporting is at a different place, and the requirements that they currently have are different, and so it helps them to make this transition to the ETF. And so, for example, the time series, that's another large an area for flexibility where instead of reporting back to 1990, those countries who need it can choose to start with their reference year and then have a consistent annual reporting from 2020 onwards. And then the final one I would highlight here is generally the requirement is that you have, like the developed countries now, you report for year T-2. And in the case of those developing countries who need it, they can use the current year -3 for their reporting. So again, this is from the ETF reference manual, and we would very much welcome your feedback here as well. I think that's the summary of the presentation, but we would very much welcome hearing you. I think just a final note is that all of the comments that came in on the draft presentation, and as well as the feedback we had received about originally having a breakout group on the ETF, shows that there's a lot of interest in this topic, and I think that's great, and I hope that this conversation can continue. Vita, I think it's over to you. I can't see at the moment the chats.
Thank you, Lisa. We have other questions. Maybe Javier can help indicating the list also in the chat and also on the raising hands. So I think we have Rita and then Menwe. So I don't think you can see the chat, so maybe Rita, you could raise your question, and then Menwe in the follow-up. So please, Rita.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you, Lisa, for the presentations and the answers to the questions. I just had a comment to one of the comments raised by Sandra to this issue on natural disturbances, and I think this is a very political issue that we should not tackle yet. We should wait for the negotiations on the tables and outlines to advance on these issues, and then come back to this, because the 2006 IPCC guidelines, which we all shall use in our reporting, does not address natural disturbances nearly at all. The 2019 refinement does, but we have not agreed to use it in the enhanced transparency framework, although I wish all parties that want to use the latest scientific guidance can do that in the future. So that was my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. So maybe you can hear the question from Menwe, and then you could provide your... Who cannot... Okay, so the question from Menwe, because he cannot speak, so maybe Javier, can you read the questions? I don't see it. Okay, Roman will read the questions, please.
Hi, good morning. I will read the question that Menwe sent. He commented that the challenge would be how to make comparability of inventories among developing countries, considering the flexibility. And his question is if there are any ideas on the table up to now on how to address or how to allow that comparability. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I take it? Thank you to Rita. I mean, I agree. That was my reaction as well on the question on the natural disturbances. And then on Menwe's question on the comparability, I think the important thing to look at on the ETF and the reporting is the improvement over time. I think that countries will start at different places, and then when there's inventory reporting, you're looking at TACCC as we've always done for the inventories. But the idea is that flexibility is a way to help all countries transition to a more unified kind of one-track approach, as Katya mentioned in her opening presentation. The discussions are still underway, how the information that's in 18 CMA1 will be reflected in the common reporting tables. So as we look at that, I think that how it will be presented is still a question, but all countries will be using the same guidelines, and then with flexibility over time, all countries will be improving so that there's a more common approach, so we're getting to a more unified system. Thanks. Peter?
Thank you very much, Lisa. I'm asking Javier, do you see no more questions? I also see no more questions on the chat. So thank you very much, Lisa. And now I would invite Shuhong. Shuhong is related to the ATF because it's a presentation on the experience from the international consultation and analysis, so the technical analysis. They don't like to be, they are not reviews on the annual update reports. I think we have, sorry, Shuhong, we still have a follow-up question from Menwei. I don't know if this time you can speak. And I think Sandro also has Menwei. No, so maybe we can move to Sandro. Yeah, right.
I'm writing. If you want, I may just write.
Okay, you can write. Okay. So meanwhile, maybe Julius, welcome to the meeting and good morning. So I think you were not in the beginning. So while you're not speaking, so maybe you can turn off your camera, please. And then when you want to address the floor, you can show your camera. Thank you very much. Sandra is writing the question, and Julius, you have to turn off the camera. I think it doesn't help. So I think maybe we can come back to these questions of Sandro when it's ready, and Menwei, because I don't see the question. I don't see the question on the chat. No question. So maybe, I'm sorry, Shuhong, and I'll give the floor to you. So again, the small presentations, response to the questions, and follow-up questions, please.
Thank you, Vita, for giving me the floor. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. It's very nice to see some of you very briefly on the screen just now. I'm very happy to see you all, and very happy that you are fine given this COVID-19 situation. I hope you continue to stay well. And take good care of yourselves. So for my presentation, 1 minute to summarize, I think I'll give it a try, even though it's challenging. So in this slide, actually, I'm trying to provide an update on the implementation of the ICA process and how the ICA process built as a basis for as parties transit to enhanced transparency framework. So far, 57 developing country parties submitted at least one BUR. And this is about more than 1/3 of all developing country parties. And we find quite a number of these BURs come with an NIR. Some parties indicated NIRs as part of their BUR. So this enabled a more in-depth technical analysis of the GHG inventory information submitted by these developing country parties. So in conducting this BUR analysis process, we take that into account, and in these cases, we add more GHG inventory experts to enable such in-depth analysis. So this is one trend. And then the key message from this presentation is really about, the ICA process, this MRV for developing country parties really provide a solid foundation basis for parties to transit to the enhanced transparency framework. It provides as a testing ground, also as a training opportunity for these developing country parties. And many of you, the lead reviewers, actually also participated in the BUR analysis process, and many of you already served as the co-leads of the BUR analysis, and we really thank you for your efforts, and we hope that more lead reviewers could really participate in the BUR analysis so that you could gain experience and then help build up this knowledge base as we move to the enhanced transparency framework. So that's the quick summary of my presentation, and then now I would like to move on to the questions, because we've received some very good questions, comments from you. Thank you very much for your interest in this presentation and in the information provided here. So first question from Manuel, I think, is on the so the question is, do you expect in future party submission, or do you expect future party submissions will come in other UN languages other than English, French, and Spanish? So basically, according to the Katowice package, so basically this new guidelines, MPGs, modalities, procedures, and guidelines for the enhanced transparency framework, all parties shall submit biannual transparency report in one of the official UN languages. That includes 6 official UN languages: Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. Perhaps just to provide information here, we right now for the BUR, actually about 30% of the BUR submissions are in French or Spanish only. So this is a challenge now we have encountered, both in terms of the review officers, because they need to have the language skills, and also in terms of the review experts, because even though, through the process, we encourage everyone to conduct the BUR analysis in English. However, we find during the interactions, especially during telephone calls with parties, when it comes to technical elements, some parties feel more comfortable to explain their own language. So that's going to be a challenge. That's already a challenge for us now, and it's going to be a challenge for the future. I just want to bring this to your attention for your information. So the second question. This is a comment, and I fully concur with. This is from Julius. So the comments are, parties should be encouraged and supported where necessary to submit at least one BUR before 2024. The ICA process enhances identification of capacity building needs for developing countries that will enhance transition to the ETF. We fully agree with you there, and our experience shows that for those parties who have already submitted their second or third BURs, indeed there is a very evident improvement in reporting, and then based on parties' feedback, this is largely due to the fact that during the BUR analysis process, parties gain technical advice from the review experts, and then these experts help parties to identify capacity building needs from the reporting gaps, not only to identify but also help parties to prioritize given the limited resources that parties have. So for sure, we would fully encourage all developing country parties to submit at least one BUR before they submit the new BTR under the ETF in 2024. The next question is from Serkai. Okay, I think this is more a comment from Serkai. So there are differences in country experiences. Some countries have already transitioned from 1996 IPCC guidelines to use of 2006 IPCC guidelines, and others are already trialing the use of CRF. And then
the follow-up comment from CERCA is developing countries can also build on lessons learned from the ICA process when reporting under the ETF. Now, this is a very good comment. And CERCA, I would like to thank you very much for your leadership last week during our recent BUR analysis. I participated in your telephone call with the parties, and I think the message, the comment you presented here really are very vividly shown during your interaction with the parties. So based on our statistics, right now, actually 75% of parties who have submitted BURs will use 2006 IPCC guidelines. So it's quite impressive statistics there. And also, CERCA last week during our interaction with Korea also mentioned about the use of CRF, because right now we already have, I think, more than 10 developing country parties who request the Secretariat to provide access to CRF. So parties are aware of this, aware of the upcoming tasks for them, so they're taking the opportunity to already get themselves familiar with the use of the CRF and then using the ICA process to gain further feedback from the experts. So this is a very positive trend we identified. The next one is from Mauro Santos. This is a question: how the capacity needs assessment of parties coming out of the ICA process is taken into account by the Secretariat or the Convention. So actually, I think in one sentence, that's a very good question, by the way. So actually, this capacity building needs assessment that Secretariat is doing that. So this technique, capacity building needs assessment, is summarized using party submissions and also the BUR technical analysis summary reports, and then survey conducted by the CGE with developing country parties. So that's the main information source. And this needs actually help inform more targeted technical support provided by the Secretariat and constituted bodies to the parties. So if we unpack this a little bit, actually it really helps us to define, not only us, but also other technical support or implementing agencies, help them to design training activities in a more targeted manner, really address the needs of the parties and by regions, if we identify some trends of capacity building needs by region or by group of parties. And also the capacity building needs also help donor agencies to understand better parties' needs, so they can also have more targeted technical or financial support provided to developing country parties. And then moving to I think I have two more questions. This one is from Samir Tantawi. The question is, would you kindly clarify how the Secretariat is planning to benefit from the available TTEs in the ETF? Thank you, Samir, for the good question, and thank you for your experience, for participating in the BUR analysis, and then I think you have a lot of experiences there already. So basically, we are expecting that the review experts under the ICA process, they will continue to support future BTR reviews, and then for sure they will play a key role, especially now we are really facing limited expert resources, and then I think the current experts, they will play a key role. They can build on their experiences and knowledge, and then transfer that knowledge to facilitate the new process. And in particular, I think the difference between these review experts under the ICA process is that compared to the Annex 1 process is that these experts are more, in a way, they're more sensitive of the need to have the process to be non-intrusive and facilitative, to be helpful to the parties, because for developing country parties, they just started the process, so they maybe rather to see this as a more positive experience, so that the BUR analysis is conducted in a constructive manner and positive manner. So in that sense, I think the TTEs right now under the current experience, they have a good sense of how their technical advice can help facilitate continuous improvements because parties all have different starting points. So I think it's also this soft skills that also can help contribute to the future process. And then lastly, of course, the TTE plays a key role, and we expect that to continue to help parties identify their capacity building needs and working with parties to improve their reporting over time. And then this capacity building element is one key element under the new ETF. So I think that there is the natural link there. So the last question from John Watterson is it possible to comment on the main reasons why countries have not been able to submit a PUR? Well, this is a challenging question. I'll try because if you look at the statistics right now, we have non-Annex 1 parties that are not LDCs and Cs. LDCs and Cs, they can submit at their discretion, but then for those developing country parties that are not LDCs or Cs, actually we have already 60% of them submitted at least one BUR. So there could be various reasons. From our interaction with parties in some cases, but perhaps there are reasons, for instance, with the GEF application process, because some parties brought that up, because the process in some cases takes longer than parties expected. And I think in that regard, GEF is fully aware of that. So in their programming for the next round of for the GEF set 8, they are already taking this into account to see how the process can be streamlined to be helpful to really facilitate timely submission of the BTR under the ETF. The other possible reason is in some countries they still encounter this challenge with coordination at the domestic level, and then sometimes at the national level the approval process for the BUR to be submitted takes longer than expected, and that could perhaps also contribute to some late submission of the BURs. And the Secretariat, we have been trying our best to help parties to address these issues, so that for the BTR this can be minimized, the challenge can be minimized. So Secretariat is fully aware of that, and we're helping countries to, in particular, focusing on domestic MRV system, because the domestic MRV system for the long run for reporting under the ETF, and parties also are fully aware of that. So that's the area of work that Secretariat has been supporting. So I think with that, I would like to thank you again for your very good questions and comments, and I'm willing to take any questions from the floor. So back to you, Victor.
Thank you, Shuhong. I will ask Sandra or Lisa. So I don't see any questions in the chat or the hand raising. Okay, sorry. Me? Yeah. And yes, there's a bit of echo. Is better. So I don't see any questions in the chat. Actually, there's a bit of confusion because I think Sandra's question is for Lisa. So, but maybe we can see if there's any more questions for Shuhong. If not, we can return to Lisa with Sandra's question. So, or Sandra.
I don't need that. Sorry. You need to provide me an answer. Just a comment.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But anyway, I'll first I will say thank you to Shuhong, and then maybe I can return to Lisa and just ask if she wants to provide any comment or feedback to Sandra. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay. No, I think it's okay. I think there are just various comments being expressed, and I think my answer is still the same, that we can't comment further at this point.
Yeah.
So that Sandro was clear in his clarification.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, if that's not the case, so I would thank Lisa and Shohong. And next in our list is Gao, and is providing very interesting presentations from them that has been also considering in the compliance committee in the facilitative branch. And so if Gao is available, I would invite Gao to take the floor. I don't know, do you want to show the presentation, or do you want us to, if you want to show the presentation, to show it, to control it? And then just a reminder, you have 2 minutes to present. And to summarize, Gao. And good morning, good evening.
Good evening, yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. It's good to hear from Peter, and we feel this is an interesting presentation. And also it's my pleasure to join the lead review meeting as a member from the Cape Protocol Compliance Committee this time, not as the lead reviewers. Well, as you know it well, the KP Compliance Committee aims to ensure parties comply with the covenants on the protocol. And we have 2 branches, the enforcement branch based on the work only on the question of implementations raised by the ERTs in the review report, where the facilitative branch has a broader mandate to look at the potential issues that would prevent a party from compliance, and therefore the facilitative branch needs to raise the outcome from the transparency framework, especially the review report. And we try to identify those issues that are persistent or significant or systemic faced by certain party or parties. If there are such issues, they would prevent a party or several parties from compliance. And based on the assessment, we could discuss with the ERTs, the lead reviewers, and the party concerned, and see how we could help the party comply with the protocol. However, as you know, that most of the members of the compliance committee come from a legal background, not a transparency background. Therefore, the IDRs and the ARRs are too technical and complicated to us. We wish to develop a guiding tool to capture the information needed for our deliberation. And after several years, we developed the general assessment and overview tool, the GO tool, last year, and used that for trial and update this year according to the feedbacks from the members. And I would also appreciate our thanks to many of the lead reviewers, especially our Chinese experts, for providing us advices. The tool, I think the tool would be too simple to use. This is just an Excel-based summarizing tool, in fact, to summarize, to capture those informations in the ARRs and the IDRs. And as you are the experienced transparency expert, but we wish this could help the compliance mechanism, and we have set up some criteria for what would be persistent, significant, and systemic. And we feel we need practice and also the experience from you and from also our members to further modify them. And we feel the transparency framework provides necessary information for the compliance assessment under the Kyoto Protocol, and also the interplays between transparency and the compliance also plays an important role under the Paris Agreement. And please allow me to make an advertisement that Christina Voigt of Norway, who is the co-chair of the Paris Agreement Implementation and Compliance Committee, and I will publish our new paper soon in the Nordic Environmental Law Journal based on our co-facilitators' understanding, Article 15 and Article 13 rules of the Paris Agreement, and we feel you will be interested in that paper. I'm not going to step by step of our GAA tool, because as I just mentioned, it will be too simple, too easy for you. But we also wish to hear your views on how to set the criteria for persistent and also significant, and how to identify those issues of the systemic nature. Regarding to the questions, we received several written comments and questions, and we thank you for your interest and support. And for the questions, there are generally two categories. The first is about access to the tool. I think we have, I thought we have uploaded the tool as well, but it seems that we may upload the slides and also my video presentation. And we are glad that the video reviewers are interested in helping us to optimize the tool. Although we took this tool as the internal tool at this stage, but we will consult with the branch to see if they are fine, and how could we share the tool with the video reviewers to hear your feedbacks especially. And the second question is about the entry into force of the Doha Amendment. On the consequence of no, I have a short answer to that. On the consequence of no entry into force of the Doha Amendment, the short answer is that the second comment period obligations are not legally binding. Whether some parties may still submit on a voluntary basis to their compliance obligations within the UNFCCC process, and they can do what they wish at domestic level, and the process should be clarified by the CMP in view of the possible financial cost of the process. And for this very interesting question and issue, I would also like to invite colleagues from the legal department to give some more thoughts if they are here. I guess at least some of them are here. I would like to give the feedback to Victor and to see if Hafida and our colleagues are here could help to discuss this question. Thanks.
Thank you, Gao. So you completed your responses? Yes.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. So no, maybe I don't know if any of the colleagues, Hafida, Jambi, they want to add to complement the response by Gao. I don't know if they're in the room. Hafidis. Anyway, I'm also asking Javier and Claudia, there's any more issues in the chat or no? So Gao, I don't know, maybe we, considering the time, sorry? I feel it's not here. Okay, considering the time, maybe we can move forward, and thank you again, Gao. And then, if need be, then we call you back. Okay, thank you. So the next presentation that we have on our list is from Kyoko Miwa from the training unit here in the Secretariat, and it's an update on the trainings and use and the other ways to improve the quality of the review process. That's a frequent, that's common in our meetings, these presentations. Kyoko, do you want to show something? Do you want to control the presentation? How do you want to do it?
It's okay. I will not go through the presentation, but just to touch up on very basic information that you may be interested in. And then I have some response to the question.
Okay, anyway, so you know more or less the rule. We have 1 minute for a summary. We have the presentation anyway. If you need it to go to a particular slide, we show it, and then we have the responses, and then we may have follow-up questions. So please, Kyoko.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share the updates of the training activities since our last lead reviews meeting with all of you. In 2019, as a result of both instructed and non-instructed trainings, 24 new experts passed the mandatory exams of the basic course. For the instructed course, 2 training cycles were implemented, including the regional training seminar focusing on the experts in Asia and Pacific region. 9 new experts fulfilled the requirement to take part in the reviews under the Kyoto Protocol in 2019. In 2020, 2 training cycles of the instructed basic course are planned, and for the first cycle focusing on the experts in Latin America and Caribbean states, e-learning study period has been completed in March. The dates of the training seminar for the first cycle participants and the second cycle of the training will be confirmed hopefully after summer. The KP course exam has just been completed last week. And since the last lead reviewers meeting, instructors of the basic course made various efforts to improve the pass rate of the basic course, such as webinars by instructors during the e-learning study period. Details are explained in the presentation, and the efforts for the improvement will be continuing in 2020. So that's the brief summary of the slides. About the question, first question on the training is the one from Samir about the possibility to make the e-learning courses printable and downloadable. When current training programs for the greenhouse gas inventory reviewers were developed, course materials were developed as the blueprint for the e-learning course developers. The format of the blueprint as such is different from the reading documents for the course participants. So in order to make the e-learning course printable, additional resources required to modify those blueprints to reading documents in the PDF format. For the moment, there is no plan to allocate the resource for this purpose. The courses are, however, downloadable as the offline e-learning courses. For the participants who have difficulties in accessing internet can receive offline versions through the Secretariat. And the experienced reviewers like you should be able to access the courses that they have already that you have already studied at any time. So if you wish to access your courses, please visit the GHGMI site using your account. If the course is not accessible, please contact the Training and Certificate Unit. Second question is about the examinations from John. Last year, editorial checks to all exam questions were done. In doing so, we paid particular attention to the questions for which examinees tend to fail or poorly answered. And the editors checked grammars and removed unclear expressions. The revisions were mainly editorial, but for example of the LUDUCF, some questions for which too many experts could not answer correctly since new exam was introduced were replaced with new questions. So that's just one of the example of the improvements in the examination. Regarding the improvements to the course material to address the need to improve the pass rate of the examinees, as already explained for about the question on the printable course material, the priority cannot be given to the basic course in the case that the work will require a substantial amount of resources right now. In recent years, however, instructors try to help participants who seem to have potentials for the technical reviews of their sectors. So instructors try to deepen understanding of participants on cost-cutting issues in order to help them not to fail the overview course exams, in particularly during the training seminars. And In 2019, amongst the participants who passed the overview exam, 6 participants still failed their sectoral exams. Amongst those 6 experts, only one of them failed his sectoral exam with a margin. 4 of them failed their sectoral exams by more than 10 points. The pass rate is 65 points and the full score is 100 points, by the way. So, but for those 4 experts who failed the sectoral exam by 10 points, we consider that they need to spend substantial effort to study more on how to apply IPCC guidelines and the reporting guidelines in order to fill their knowledge and skill gaps to pass the sectoral exams by increasing their scores more than 10 points. Almost all participants who failed both the overview and sectoral exams indicated low performance in the sectoral exams. The average score of sectoral exams of those who failed both exams was 36.5 in 2019. So, as some lead reviewers noted in the breakout group discussion of the last lead reviewers meeting, the capacity building of experts is of the fundamental importance in order to address the needs to increase the number of reviewers. However, the capacity building and the training of reviewers, the activities to address those two things should not be confused, as explained in the presentation. The third question is about the training under the ETF this is a question from Sakai. Regarding the training program for the ETF and the current training program under the convention, the discussion is ongoing under the SABSTA. So the authors and the secretariat will be guided by the COP decision. So this is what we can respond at this moment. The last point is not a question, this is a comment from Fatima on the usefulness of the support material for non-LULUCF experts on accounting of the KP-LULUCF. We are very pleased about the comment, and if you haven't studied and took the exam of the course of the Article 3.3 and 3.4 of the Kyoto Protocol course yet, please do not miss the training cycle next year. I think that's all. I think I addressed all questions. Vito, back to you.
Thank you very much, Kyoko. And so I was asking Javier, no more questions. I also don't. The issue is for me, or I see the chat or the hands, so not both at the same time. But so I have the support of Sandro and Claudia. Claudia, you have no, we don't see any questions coming to you. So thank you very much, Kyoko, for the presentation. And but again, if you want that after the other presentations, you can add your comments, and then we try to address it. Okay, thank you. So the next one, the next one actually maybe I'm going to invite Roman, because the presentation on the database, actually one of the presenters is not yet available, so we may skip it or move it forward, and then I would invite Roman to present the usual informations on the summary of the previous year's review process, the outcome, the achievements, and the challenge. So Roman, you know the rules, you wrote them yourself. So please have the floor. Thank you, Peter, and good day to all colleagues. I use my 1-minute summary to show these 2 slides in this is the slide, and you see that in 2019, to make this process work as it was, we had to ask more than 130 experts worldwide to give us around 2 full-time weeks, spread over several weeks, but altogether it's about 2 full-time weeks to have this process running. And the second 30 seconds is that you see there the series for 10 years. And even if the staffing secretary has changed, the experts have changed, the lead reviewers have changed, and the parties reporting, responsible for parties reporting have changed, some of them. Even if there is always improvement, but it's only marginal improvement. So we are at 60% publication success rate. So we still, that's our biggest struggle. Specifications, product specifications do not fit the process, or process specifications do not fit the product. So, but you may have some of their insights. And now I will move to the questions received. We had a question from the tool Demiroc, and it was more than, I think, as an observation, as a question. And the observation was that the delay on publications of the review reports leads to some deficiencies in the reporting. And because if the review reports are late, then the parties cannot include those recommendations in their submission, and they cannot indicate in their submission how they've addressed it, the recommendations from the review process. So there's an impact in the reporting side, but that impact cascades into the next review, and because the next review will not have in the submission how the party has addressed those recommendations, it will need to start afresh. So it will not have that information in the submission, but it will have to contact the party directly. I agree totally with the observation, and it is unfortunate, and that's why we continue working with the timeliness of the publication. Then another observation from Julius Mazzore about desk reviews. And his observation is that these reviewers are not as attractive as other type of review for many experts, because they mainly due to time constraint and connectivity in some countries. That's also is an observation that we agree. The time constraint we can play if we change the product, or we change how we approach the process. Connectivity, I guess, it will improve with time all over, so it will be a matter of time. But another observation where we all agree. And the last questions and observation comes from George Watterson. He wonders about what is the most time-consuming part of the process, and he asks, or he wonders, if there is anything that the lead reviewers could do to increase the time available for the technical part of the reviews. And some suggestions that I can think of is that increase the role in peer reviewing the draft, increase the role in monitoring the progress of drafting, and with those improvements, I think the following stages may be faster, and as a result, the publication will be also faster. Then, similar question, is there anything that the lead reviewers could do to reduce the time spent in purely process part of the publication? Of the purely process part that are not substantial, I can think of the editing only. Editing normally takes a few days, normally less than 5. However,
depending on the timing, when the report is sent for editing, it can take more. That means 2 weeks or sometimes even longer. And because there are 2 editings, there are one editing before it's sent as draft to the party, and another when it's prior to publication. Even if small delays in editing also add to the final delay. We have dedicated editors for inventory, but sometimes it's a matter of bottlenecks produced by many reports coming at the same time for editing. John then goes to desk reviews. Is another observation that he thinks that desk reviews might not be attractive because reviewers are worried that they will not be able to focus on the review if they are in the office. I fully agree with the assessment. It's a challenge for experts. It's a challenge for lead reviewers too. And what solutions might help? From the Secretariat side, one option would be to spread the work over more weeks so that the time dedicated in a specific week is not that much. However, if we spread the weeks forward, then the publication date is impacted. And if we spread the work backwards before the review week, that impacts for the Northern Hemisphere with summer holidays of most experts. So I'm afraid, John, I don't have a good answer or a good solution for your question. Those were the questions received in the questionnaire. I don't know if there are any more. I look at my colleagues and they don't seem to see one comment. Okay.
Yes, Herman. The comments from Mark is this will be more acute for 2020 reviews with COVID restriction. And from Juan Cristobal, just a comment, that proposal for spreading the work worked perfectly in a BR during review COVID.
Yep, thank you, Claudia, for the comments. Yep, and I think there are more. No, there don't seem to be any more comments. So thank you all.
So thank you, Roman. And actually, some of these comments relate to the 2020 reviews. So they will probably, I think there was also questions on this, and they will address when the presentation on looking forward, the last presentation. Now, I will return a little bit back to the agenda on the presentations on the VTR and the databases of issues. I think now Vlad will be available to present some information, and then I will excuse myself for a while, and then I'll give the control to Roman. It will continue until my presentation. Thank you.
Hi, hello everybody. So first of all, I would like to thank my colleague Pedro for putting together this presentation. So in summary, the idea for this new IVTR module that is called the Review Issue Database was to just record the issues from the published GHG Inventory annual review reports, and this will happen since 2015, and then to make sure that this is to facilitate the tracking and searching of issues and promote consistency of the reviews across parties. So this will allow the tracking of history, the searching of issues across parties, across based on their status, and also a summary on the number of issues per status and type for each party and review year. We have received some comments, quite positive feedback from the lead reviewers, so we are quite happy for that. People saying that this is a fantastic addition, that the tool will be useful and handy for lessening the time spent by ERTs in tracking status of previously raised issues. That will be practical for the reviews. And we also got three questions. First of all, if the new module considers the flexibility for developing countries to make it easily and useful for reviewers. Of course, the idea for this new module is that will be part of the current VTR, and this is in the same under the MRV. In terms of the future tools, of course, we are looking on how to develop these new tools for the enhanced transparency framework, but this will come in the next period. Then we also got a question regarding the database, and if we can add a link to the relevant reports among the search results. The idea for this issue database is not to go back to the reports themselves, but just to be able to search them and to of course to identify them and be able to compare and see the tracking of the issues. So of course the relevant reports will still be available in the VTR, and this will continue to be available. But this module will be for the issues, so for the review issues that were identified in the previous year, for the expert review teams to be able to have a tracking and the possibility to search between them. The rest I see only comments, but of course if you have any questions we can just put them now into the chat. Thank you. Back to Roman.
Yep, thank you, Vlad. While we wait for some comments or feedback to Vlad, I think we received a suggestion from Justin to the previous presentation, to my presentation, and his suggestion was to improve the speed of processing review report. He suggested improving the pre-analysis of submissions. He suggested improving a more efficient use of the reads and creation of the reports. He also suggested going into simpler and shorter reports. With those suggestions would help experts focus on the review and speed up the production of reports. Yeah. Helen also commented on Justin's comment, and she agreed with that she proposed shorter, simpler and more focused reports, and that's especially important for leading to the ETF when more reviews will need to happen in a shorter time. About the shorter and more simple reviews, the content of the review report is indicated in the guidelines. We can play a bit with the format, and we can play a bit with the importance of the issues. However, we don't have a rating system in the guidelines for the importance. So in that sense, guidance from the lead reviewer or from the expert would be very welcome. Thank you. Paul Duffy and Nahmeldin also commented in the Justin comment, and just Paul Duffy reminds us that in the background material for the breakout group on operationalization, there is a presentation on a review process similar is the EU ESD process, so this has some similarities, but also ends in simple report in faster processing times. And Nahmeldin supports Justin, and he also thinks that this would help improving the process and focus the reviewers. I don't think there are and we have a comment referring to Gao's presentation and the analysis tool of the compliance committee, and you can see that link in the chat. Is a message from, well, it's a link to the article, sorry, not to the tool but to the article, and you have the full reference there in case you are interested. We continue then with the process. We apologize, we are running a bit late. We will try to catch up time, but I think we'll be around 20 minutes late. I hope it is okay with all of you. Then we move quickly to Claudia's presentation on the follow-up of the conclusions from the previous lead reviewers meeting. Claudia, please.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, just the presentation takes a little bit to upload. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Yeah, even in this virtual meeting, and hope to see you all in person next year. My presentation is about follow-up to the conclusions and recommendations of the 16 lead reviews meetings, and it covers the recommendations and encouragements from lead reviewers about from the current how the Secretariat, lead reviewers, and experts and parties have addressed the recommendation. For training and review tools, and let me see here, for training and review tools, IEA, there is a special presentation more specific in our website, on our webpage, so you can go there, you're going to have a more detailed presentation. I will focus here, because we have only 1 minute, on the coordination and planning, that we have to improve. So the Secretariat sent invitation to the ERT. It was sent on June 2019, and 26% of the experts declined, Roman mentioned, and I had a question from John Watterson about that I would like to make here. He just asked about that would be good to understand the reasons why 26% of the experts declined. So what do we have about from information? Experts know better why they have declined, but the information that we receive is that in decline invitations, reviewers mostly provide a number of reasons, and for example, not being available due to previous commitments, have workload or lack of financial resources. Some reviewers were also not available on the scheduled review week dates. More information on on how on how the process of the review has gone last year is in this document that I am sharing here in the chat, and that was also mentioned by Roman in his presentation. Okay, now I will move then to speak about improvements to the quality, efficiency, and consistency of reviews. We can see that we are in a good shape for that. We are in a good shape. And for operationalization of the review, we are also in a good shape, but what could be improved? What could be improved next year is related to lead reviewers and experts and the secretariat to finalize the QC in the week after the review week. Also related to the checklist, it's ongoing. The secretariat to develop this checklist per sector based on the review handbook is ongoing, and related to desk review, again, also the checklist. On all other issues, we are in good shape, and we have met the recommendations and encouragements provided by the lead reviewers. So, thank you very much. I will I stay here. I finalize. If anybody has any questions, please just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, for the presentations. Now, I don't think we have received any more questions on the chat, or I might not see any requests for the floor. So we will move quickly, and we're lucky to have Roberta Quadrelli and Francesco Mattion from the IEA, and they're happy to quickly summarize their presentation that you have available in the web, and then they will answer the questions received from the questionnaire and any other question that comes from the chat or as a follow-up question. Please, Roberta, Francesco.
Yes, so this is Roberto. We'll share it, this contribution with Francesco. Do I need to share my screen somehow? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because I still see the previous presentation. Yeah. Do I need to share the screen, or is not useful?
As you wish, Roberta.
It's fine. Just to remind us a little bit why we are here. For those people who are less familiar with the IEA, we would like to remind the International Energy Agency we are representing here today is certainly committed to enhance clean energy transitions globally. In general, working with all the members and the partners like the UNFCCC, so we are very active in this space. We are moving to actually planning a global summit for clean energy transitions in July. And there are a number of high-level activities of the IEA. Of course, the tracking component is essential for our work to provide the evidence needed by policies. So that's why we have a strong data collection activity at the IEA, and we are here to improve the sort of national and international, as a consequence, data quality in the energy domain, but for the purposes of climate reporting. The cooperation with the UNFCCC and with the IPCC for various activities is really essential in this space. So I hope you can appreciate this, because we are having a lot of activities together, from the harmonization of methodologies used to define the greenhouse gas data, so that the reporting burden is minimized at the country level, to joint capacity building activities for developing countries. And one typical example of this comparison of data that we perform once a year at the IEA and provide to the NCCC to ensure that we understand if there are discrepancies in the various data that are produced and used at national level across the different policy purposes. So the reporting, if I can summarize one slide, that would be this one probably. So our objective overall is that the data that are reported to the international institutions in different policy areas, like the IEA for energy, the UNSD as well for statistical reporting, and the UNFCCC for the climate reporting, when there is an overlapping set of data, we would like to ensure that upstream there has been sort of enough work at the national level to ensure that coherent databases are moving out of the country. So this is our overall objective. So this is where our contribution as a reviewer, but also compilers, is really what can make a difference. I think we had a couple of questions in the set of questions. Maybe Francesco, you can continue with the questions and the answers.
Yes, thank you, Roberta. Hello to everybody. Can you hear me right?
Yes, we can hear you, Francesca.
Thank you. So we have a twofold question from John Watterson, and the first part is how can inventory compilers find out who or which government department in their country has submitted data to the IEA? And so I would start with an introductory point saying that there is definitely a strong interest for the IEA in having collaboration at the national level between institutions using and constructing different databases using energy data. So this is what more or less what Roberta said. And then in particular, we would say that compilers are invited to get documentation on what energy data are produced and by whom in the country, so that they can set up a working process that takes it into account. For the IEA sources, I would say that they are available in our documentation of the energy balances online, and also if people cannot find them, we are happy to be contacted to share our information about sources at the national level. Also, the sources that we use to create our energy data sets are also shared with the UNFCCC during the comparison process. So if we think it would be good if this information is also shared with reviewers at the time of review, so that also this metadata can be more easily assessed. Then we have the second part of the question, which is how can we or can reviewers access energy data from the IEA. And here again, I would start saying that we have an agreement, the IEA has an agreement with the UNFCCC, so that data for specific countries can be shared at the time of review. And then finally, in any case, we would be happy to receive a request of sharing data from national sources. So please get in contact with us. We would be more than happy to share the information that we have. Then, of course, once again, stepping back to what Roberta said, we would also encourage compilers to establish a good relationship and good operational arrangements with national energy statistics producers, because probably it would be more effective and even more beneficial for everybody if there is no need to access national energy data through international sources. I don't know whether you, Roberta, want to add anything. Otherwise, these were the questions.
Yeah, maybe just if there are other questions or if it is not clear what the IEA does, we'll be happy to answer either now or in LinkedIn or in other channels. It's important because we really want to achieve this sort of optimization of use of resources at national level because resources are limited. And so working together will help.
Thank you, Roberta and Francesco, for the presentation and the answers to the questions received. Roberta has shared a link in the chat, and that link points to the World Energy Balance for the 2019 edition. And I don't think there are any other questions or comments. We can then move to the next presentation. We're lucky to have Sandro, which is both a lead reviewer and also part of the IPCC support unit on inventories, and he's going to walk us quickly through the 2019 refinement to the 2006 Inventory Guidelines. Please, Sandro, you have the floor.
Roman, I will be very, very fast because otherwise I miss my last bus. So, the presentation is already online, and I just wish to add this sentence that is just from the overview. The 2019 refinement does not revise the 2006 IPCC guidelines, but updates, supplements, and or elaborates the 2006 IPCC guidelines, where gaps or out-of-date science have been identified. So this means that the refinement is fully consistent with the 2006 IPCC guidelines. A comparison between methods and data in the two books is meaningless because just one is better than the other, and that's it. Indeed, it replaces the other. So this means also that the 2016 guidelines refinement cannot be used alone, but it must be used in conjunction because it only contains those sections or chapters where some updates have been provided. Anything else just refers to the 2006 IPCC guidelines text. So I received 4 questions. The first one is from Kent Buchanan. Is about when the countries will use the refinement for reporting the greenhouse gas inventories. The refinement has been published last December, so in theory you may already find some elements from the refinement in this greenhouse gas inventory cycle. Of course, next cycle is more likely, and so on. Of course, everybody knows that the refinement has not been adopted by the CMA, so it can be used, of course, on a voluntary basis by the countries. The second question is from Julius Mazzore. Is about the fact that the refinement may require more data. So applying the methodology from the requirement may require more data. It is in general, it is not the case. It can be in some, for some categories, for some others actually it may require less data. But I mean, again, is a voluntary, is an option. So developing countries, this question is just for developing countries, but also the developed countries may decide to use some of the elements as they wish, more appropriate for their national circumstances. In general, they are more appropriate because they are better science than the 2006, but again, it's up to the country. There is no legal requirement. The third question is about the update of the inventory software with the 2019 refinement. Of course, it would be very nice, but we don't have plan to do so. Sooner or later it will be done, but we are still doing many updates of the current version to fully incorporate the wetland supplement and also higher tier standards of the 2006 guidelines that you cannot expect this for the next 2 years, for sure. And then the last question is from John, is about to know which are the factors that has been updated in the refinement, and so if there is a list of this factor where. The answer is that in each chapter, in each volume, you have the last chapter usually is an annex, include mapping tables. These mapping tables provide you all the information on any element that has been modified, updated, refined, or any new element added to the guidelines. Of course, this is not at the level of the single value, but is at the level of tables, so this is already very informative. Then, of course, we also in this case for the inventory software, for sure we will update these emissions in the 2019 refinement. But won't happen this year. But this is more likely to happen before we do the same update for the software. And these are. If there are additional questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Sandro. I don't think we have received any other question in the chat or by raising hands. So we'll quickly move forward to the last presentation. And I wanted to remind all of you that you have the presentations and the recording of those presentations in the Lead Reviewers webpage. So all presenters have made a big effort not only to prepare the slides but also to make the recording. So use that to your advantage, and that way you can have a better information than just with the slides. We move now to the last presentation. It's about the reviews, the inventory reviews this year. And Victor, please, whenever you're ready.
This will be
Okay, thank you, Roman. It's on, I think. Yeah? No, it's not working for me. But it's not moving. This is another presentation.
this will be a short presentation on statistical information on the UNFCCC and inventory review. And
I'm sorry, it's difficult sometimes in the computer to identify the right screen. So this is the good news is this is the final presentation in the morning, and again, please excuses because we have extended the time by about half an hour, and so I'll try to be brief. And can you move one slide forward? And this is what in brief contains this presentation is the information on the review plans for 2020. We have the plan, the original plan that we have developed in the beginning of the year, and then we had to revise our plan because of two things. First, the COVID-19 pandemic, and also because of the change of the time of SPs, and then it was just at the same time during the original reviews. I think it's important to mention that in spite of this plan, and you see in this plan that it's kind of a usual plan within country reviews, centralized reviews, and desk reviews. We also have developed contingency plans in case the travel and the travel restrictions and the situation of the virus does not allow people coming to Bonn or coming to the countries with teams built in a balanced manner. And these plans, some of them are still being considered and maybe improved, would be to convert to remote, or also we thinking that we could have some changes in scope and others. And also important in the presentation, maybe you can move forward a moment. More. This is the plan. One more, and another one. More. Yeah. So also important, we did a survey, and many experts responded, and in this survey they provided the level of willingness to participate in a remote, and also the reasons that they have to express difficulties. Some of them are, of course, connectivity, family issues, difficult. Some of them are more old in the sense that they also affect desk reviews, like staying at home or not. So please take a look. And most of these issues also have to do with the experience they had in other type of reviews this year. So I'm going to show this in the responses that I have to the comments that we have, and but in spite of that, we're trying to implement the reviews as with a sense of continuity and respecting the guidelines. We also developed some review tools, some of them also by Vlad's team on the IVTR and review tools, and also more in our side from the template, and also some guidance for the reviews. So maybe you can move forward, Roman. This is the template, and forward, please. That's the template. Yep. So this is basically the slides where we try to summarize what are the challenges, and then the principles that we develop. So I'm going now. May I? I'm going now to respond to the questions that we have received. We have received, I think, 12 questions, and I'll group them in two groups. First, about the contingency plans. There was a question from Kent if there was a plan C, if the travel is not allowed in October, November. And then Paul, if we could organize the remote in the same week. And Sandro, on the other hand, asks, I think if there could be a centralized, and then the question by Elsa, a question about how the in-country reviews would be conducted when converted in remote. So this is so thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken, Paul, Sandra, and Elsa. I think the questions complement each other. The original plan was to convert in-country reviews into remote centralized. That's also you see that's this gray in the plan, and that's, as mentioned by Sandro. But then, because we are organizing the teams for in-country review, that's still our plan, then it will be easier maybe to convert that into in-country review and use the arrangements that we've been developed so far. And we have to remember that, I mean, I would say that it's probably likely that we have to do it, but we're still not sure because still a bit far away. And then we still do not have clarity on the guidelines. Anyway, and also because for the parties, then when we discussed the plans for the parties, the specific review week, we also took in consideration the existence of holidays, children holidays, and other elements that are usually considered. So that's probably the plan. In terms of the scope, and that's connected to the I think this is for the ICRs. On the other hand, maybe this, as I said, I think the solution, maybe the easiest solution is what Paul, I think, is suggesting. But in terms of the format, I mean, if the party is preparing presentations or is prepared for that, could these presentations take place? I think calling this a remote in-country review would sound very strange, and I think it's not the same scope. But to have those presentations, maybe it could be functional. For the centralized, and then because the reviews are too long and sometimes the communication it's impaired, if we could have a change of scope, not so much as a change of scope, but to limit to the key topics or something that we also debating among ourselves. But in all cases, I think it's important for the remote that we start or consider the experts that are willing to participate. So this is probably what will be considered as a starter to build the teams, and we're currently building the teams. So the second group of questions. I just group Menway, Julius, Mauro, and Songli, and this has to do with the organization of remote reviews. So it's not so much in general, and not so much as in terms of the contingency. So. What are the lessons learned from other process? Asks Menway, and actually since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the postponing of lead reviews meeting, which took place in the beginning of March, other reviews like reviews of BRs and technical analysis of BORs took place. And they faced, in particular, I think the first one was a BOR. They faced challenges and limitations because the plan was to have it as a centralized, and then they have to be converted into a remote. So people were taken by surprise. And what my colleagues Shuhong and the Shuhong's team tells me is that it was additional work, additional time and work of the review officers and the lead reviewers and expert. They are not calling lead reviewers, but the experts, the technical experts, and then they have more time to dedicate to coordinations and to focus on the technical, and less time to focus on the technical aspects of the reviews. And I think they also extend some of these reviews. They extend a little the review week, at least the first BOR they did, and the same we have the report from the reviews of the biannual reports, and also they have reporting difficulties in allocating sufficient time to reviews while working for the usual work, and also issues on internet connectivity and the electricity shortages. So basically, they're the same that I also have in the slide, but the slide is coming from the questionnaires. In Julius, I think Julius' comment is saying that experts should also be very supported to reviews being done, in particular during these times, and I think that's a very good point, and also shows that the importance of lead reviewers and experts having a special role in ensuring that reviews take place in spite of difficulties. I think that's relevant. I don't know if you want to also take this into considerations on doing the conclusions and recommendations. And Mauro, Mauro raises an interesting issue about providing DSAs, so people would go to a hotel and so they work. I mean, the way it's framed, maybe it's a bit difficult because hotel it's accommodation, so usually we don't support it to be your office that you may have at home. It's not supported. It's not considered the need for a DSA. And I don't know. We also discussed some time ago. Also for the lead reviews meeting, what could be the possibility to have the regional people join regionally and to participate regionally. That was something in the beginning where the pandemic was not so spreading all over the world. At this moment, maybe it may be difficult in all regions, but and then in this case, I don't know, maybe it's not up to me to say yes or no, I have to say, but that's something that I think it with difficulties, but still you have to move, so you move to a regional center. Maybe this could be a possibility. Is there any, finally, Songli asking if there's any provisional guidelines? Yes, we have developed, we developed in the team, actually, and was something that Javier took the lead on that. We may need to revise them now, taking considerations the results of the lead reviews meeting and taking consideration the new situation that may happen. So we have it, and that's basically some of the information that we already provided in presentations to remote, and maybe in terms of the scope, and maybe you have also views on what could be the limitations in the scope that you may consider. And finally, we have John Watterson and Songli, and the issues of some parties raised concerns about excessive number of issues that I included in the presentation, and it's true. There are some cases where some parties consider that the issues are too many. In response to, I will not say which parties, but in response, was generally some of the parties, yes, some of them have higher, but some of them have lower or average. So I think you're going to see in the presentation in the breakout group for tomorrow, and that's the presentation that was jumping. I'll try to show the presentation. That's the presentation that appeared when I was trying to. It's obvious that I'm not very good with the. No, not very good at all. Yeah, this one. And And then we have here the total number of issues. This is something that is going to present it tomorrow. And I don't know, yeah, that's the number of issues along the years. And so if that's something that is going to be discussed tomorrow, so if you have the time to come to the breakout group on operationalizations, that's may be helpful. Yes, I think I covered all the issues, so Mark. Mark, he mentions the issue of the Far East with the presentation. So he means that to show the presentations. I'm guessing that to show the presentations on the while we hear in the other times will be challenging. That's I think it's a good point, and then we have to take this into considerations. And then Justin, and then we take the lessons learned from the let me see, it's a long comment. Yes, that's from the European Union tomorrow. You can see it in the background paper and also from in the presentation that we invited Klaus to present tomorrow, and also Melanie Sporer from the EU. She will also agreed to come tomorrow and show. And yes, we may take some lessons, and we also take in consideration lessons from other processes. Like we also having a presentation available by Karen from the Secretariat on the ICA process, and that's I also encourage you to see in preparation for tomorrow. But this will be for tomorrow. I see. Justin, do you want to say something?
No, thanks, Vitor. That's all. I just wanted to highlight that point.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Roman, do you have any more? No. Jason, okay. So I think that's it. Basically, we completed the presentations that we have scheduled for today, and we completed the first session. And for those of you that will not attend the second session, and the second session, I have to say, will be likely repetitions of the morning sessions, where we go all over again with the presentations and all over again with the responses to the comments. And of course the questions from the floor may be different because different people will attend, but feel free to join or not. I think we're very. I think the team is pleased with the. I think with some time with delay. I think we went all the presentations, and I think we respect the times, and we heard so many interesting presentations from the ETF, but also the presentation from Gao on the tool. I mean, I've been following more closely with, but maybe you didn't know, and of course the information on what you have been doing in terms of training and the database, and what we're doing in terms of the reviews, and also the work with the collaborations that we have with the IPCC and the IEA are worth noting. So as you may notice that this year we didn't include any proposal for recommendations in the presentations, and the reason is that we find it challenge preparing long presentations. This is something that we're still discussing with Thelma and Michael, but in case that from the presentations, as Lisa mentioned, if you think that something could be there, you can use the meeting will be on. You can use maybe the time now or to continue discussing with the chat and propose that, and then we may take in consideration. We and the co-facilitators we may take this in consideration. But keep in mind of the additional limitations that we have in this meeting to discuss conclusions. So you may need to be general and pragmatic in what you think it should be considered. Don't come with complex issues, because they may be very difficult to implement. So this was something that will be probably triggered by the co-facilitators. Apart from that, tomorrow the plan is to have two breakout groups at 10. Each one will have 2 sessions, again to accommodate different time zones. There is also presentations, and then there are questions to the presentations. Those already closed. And then we have 2 co-facilitators supporting the consideration of these topics, and one of them on consistency is Olia Glade and Dario Gomez, and for the other breakout group on operationalizations, there are Yanis Sempos and Marta Alfaro. So please remember that we have the breakout groups and breakout groups and the background papers and the presentations available. And then on Wednesday and then on Thursday we have a different type of meeting. It will be a considerations of the conclusions and recommendations. So thank you all for attending, and again I apologize for the slight delay. Well, still a delay. And if you want to keep, you can keep in the meeting interacting, and we'll leave the meeting open, and we come back at 4 o'clock. Thank you very much. See you.